Did you play Spider-Man 2 on the PlayStation 5? Well, over 10 million people bought the game, and if any of the 10 million were like me, they were disappointed. Spider-Man 2 takes the elements from the first two games that work with beloved legacy characters and paints a murky picture of strange-looking character models and flawed motivations, telling a story that was both overly predictable and not very good. It's been a year since Spider-Man 2 was released, and many fans have waited with bated breath that we would get some kind of story continuation in the form of DLC to tie up some of those loose ends or clean up some of the weaker plot points of the principal game. Well, we just found out that all that waiting was for nothing. There is no more content coming to Spider-Man 2. The game has run its course. This is an announcement that probably should have come 6 months ago, but was held off and paired with the announcement for the game's PC port coming in 2025. So, with Spider-Man 2's run finally coming to an actual completion, if we look back, we can see you have all the usual suspects involved in making this game that tend to have their hands in the ruination of many other games. And you could really narrow it down to 5 groups of people, because there are 5 people ruining video games. Hello, my friends, and welcome to The Pondering. I am the real-life fake wizard. If this video brings you any value at all, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, where we're posting new videos nearly every day. Now, this idea that there are 5 people ruining the gaming industry is a little reductive, because there are a lot more than 5. But let's take a minute to define what ruining video games actually means. Well, firstly, it's hard to say that the industry is ruined in past tense, right? Gaming accounts for a near $200 billion industry worldwide, but that value includes China and both men and women who play mobile games. So $200 billion is generally inflated when we are discussing things like PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, Spider-Man 2, and hardcore gaming. Regardless, if you've got a company like Disney dropping $1.5 billion to buy into Fortnite, I can't imagine that gaming is ruined, right? So when I say there are people ruining video games, I mean exclusively that there are bad faith actors or false advisors or mistakes being made at an industry level that is detrimental to consumers. Video games is a business. Businesses are supposed to make products for target markets that are willing to spend their disposable income on them. And what we're looking at, and have been for at least the last, decade, is that instead of the consumer giving influence to businesses about what kind of products to make, things have flipped around, and corporations think that they have the right to tell you to buy XYZ product because they said so. And if you're a consumer who rejects XYZ product, then you are ostracized or dismissed entirely. You're made to feel like a pariah, all for the sake of choosing to go against what the corporations try to tell you what to think and how to feel. And we see this in more than just gaming. The Western economic culture as a whole is based in a multimedia marketing effort of corporations trying to tell you what to think and how to feel about everything. And if you choose to question that narrative, if you choose to go against the tide, you are seen as a rebel or an insurgent and will be treated as such. And so that's exactly how it is in gaming, and here are some examples. How dare you question why Mary Jane looks like a Thum Thum from Spy Kids? How dare you question why the Qunari, a species with monstrous appearance, has been pussified down to near human-level qualities for perverted reasons? How dare you request that the actresses who work very hard to do the mocap work and video game acting for main characters also be inserted into the game as the face models of the characters they play? No, don't point out we do it for literally everyone else. The technology is not there for Humberly Gonzalez, even though we can put Deborah Wilson in everything. And how dare you question the race swapping of Saga Anderson in Alan Wake 2? Notice I didn't say the character was good or bad. I didn't say the game was good or bad either. In fact, I've purchased multiple copies of Alan Wake 2 myself. I've beaten it twice. I bought the limited edition coffee thermos from Finland. I even went against my own morals to buy the limited run bundle because I love Alan Wake that much. That's how attached I am to this franchise. So even as a fan and paying customer, my question remains. Why'd you race swap the character? Did it make a narrative difference? Not really. So why'd you do it then? You did it for a reason. What's the reason? And they'll respond back with, why do you care? Why do you care that Saga Anderson was race swapped? Why do you care that Peter Parker quits being Spider-Man after being emasculated for roughly 15 hours of gameplay in Spider-Man 2? Why do you care that your heroes keep getting brutally and unceremoniously butchered on screen, like Batman in the Suicide Squad? Well, these why do you care responders often result in immediately name-calling and ad hominem attacks shortly after asking why do you care, and it creates a barrier to the truth, often shielding the 5 or more people who create these situations that slow customers like you and me from asking the origin questions like, why do you keep remaking games and changing things? Many of the sentiments I've brought up may seem small in nature to you, and that's okay. But does it really matter that all the Spider-Man 2 characters are ugly, and the original PlayStation 4 disc launch of the first game looked 100 times better? Does it matter that a girl that weighs 100 pounds is punching stormtroopers and knocking them out? Does it matter that content that would seem small in nature is altered, removed, changed, or even censored? Yes, because you spend your money on it, you buy it. And these companies think that they don't have to explain themselves when you ask questions, and many of the people in the driver's seats making the decisions that give rise to questions like this, well, they hate your guts.
Help me, Spider-Man! Thank you, Spider-Man! You're welcome, my friend!
Group 1 of folks who've put diesel fuel into our Nissan Altima are the writers. Now, the writers are the very foundation of the stories. They're the ones putting pen to paper. They're the ones who wrote the unrelatable Mary Jane stealth missions in Spider-Man 2, and the Miles Morales helps teens ask each other out for homecoming. Give me a break. Yes, because when I want to feel like Spider-Man, I think of how heroic Spidey is always there to help New Yorkers set up promposals, record celebrity cameo videos, and hold your place in line at the Times Square Applebee's. These writers who can't relate to general audiences are the kinds of people who write these romanticized versions of a fictional New York City, where people are friendly and nice to each other, and the Harlem jazz scene is in. I'm recording this video from New York City. I'm here right now. I was born and raised here. Go to Harlem today. Go hang out uptown, and go at night too. You're gonna have a wonderful time, and if your wounds do heal and you're blessed enough to walk again, you will thank Insomniac Games for making such a relatable and real experience that lets you feel like Spider-Man when his powers stop working and he slams into the pavement like a pancake. Remember the Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire, when they're on the bridge and the cartoonish New Yorkers start throwing stuff at Green Goblin? Yeah, if you don't know what it was like then, you'll think that was cringy, and it is, but it's not. We were right off the back of 9/11. It was May 2002. There was a sense of New York pride after we were attacked. That scene was cartoonish, but in a lot of ways, it was real AF. Insomniac's Spider-Man 2 is not a real New York at all. It's written like how people in California think New York is, but it's a fantasy. And writers having fantastical fake views on what the world really is part of the problem. The modern-day writers for video games, movies, and television have at least 2 definable problems. 1, they don't know what the world really looks like for the average Joes and Jills. New York's unrelatability is an example of this from Spider-Man 2. Don't sell me a game that will feel like the realism of Spider-Man, but then miss out on how grimy and dangerous New York City actually is at the street level. The Sam Raimi films all captured this. This video game cost $300 million. You have no excuses. So there's a disconnect there between writers and the real world. The second thing is the writers don't care about the first thing. They don't care that they're writing from inside a bubble, because they believe you need to meet them where they are. But it's supposed to be the other way around. Writers are supposed to write stories for people, and the people should want to buy them because those stories are good. But we live in a time where writers think that they deserve your investment on principle that they wrote it, failing to write anything that's even remotely relatable to the average Western man or woman. And when you call them on this, when you point out just how out of touch the writers are, you will receive vitriol back. Because truthfully, the writers hate you. They hate the world, and they hate themselves. Please, find me a writer for a Western media corporation that has something nice to say about themselves, the world, or their country, and the general audience they're making their products for. And yes, I do mean products. Video games are products. Their writing is not creative expression entirely. These writers are not writing for the sake of artistic expression. They're telling stories for money. They're selling. They're writing characters to sell to you and me, which means that they should be writing from a position of satisfying an audience. It's a state of mind. It's the empathy of thinking, okay, I'm responsible for writing a narrative about a character that paying audiences have been waiting to follow up on for 12 years. Maybe I shouldn't cut Alan Wake out of more than 50% of the 12-year-awaited Alan Wake sequel. Are we thinking like that? And I know this topic about products and art is going to set a lot of people off, but I do not care. I'm not saying writers should squash their creativity, but, maybe stop writing for you and start writing for your audience. The second group of people who should be denied entry to the local Chili's are journalists. I'm getting canceled for this video. Remember how I said there are people who play defense for the corporations? So like if you have a valid good faith concern or question directed towards a product or service, there's a line of people who are going to retaliate with, "Why do you care so much?" Yeah, sure, you'll find those people on Twitter, but it's also the entire reason access media journalism is a thing. Gone are the Walter Cronkite days and the all the president's men busting corruption. The journalists of 2024 have one goal: to get you to shut the fuck up. Both your mouth and your brain. And to do that, they're going to run defense for their corporate masters who are bankrolling and own nearly all of the major news publications. And it sounds here I'm starting to get conspiratorial, right? Sure, that's what they want your reaction to be, but here we go. Disney owns ABC, ESPN, and National Geographic. Comcast owns NBC and Universal Studios. Warner Brothers Discovery owns HBO and CNN. National Amusements owns Paramount, Viacom, and CBS. Amazon owns The Washington Post, MGM, and Twitch. It's almost like the corporations that make all the entertainment also make all the news media. But we're talking about video games here, and by extension, video games journalism, or entertainment journalism. Okay, well, comicbook.com is owned by Paramount. Hollywood Reporter, Billboard, Variety, Rolling Stone, and Deadline are all owned by Penske Media Corporation, and PMC also owns stakes in the Golden Globes, American Music Awards, Streamy Awards, Billboard Music Awards. I know none of these are games, but holy shit when I just found out while making this video. All these award shows are just one company. Kotaku is a subsidiary to Go Media for now, before it gets sold off to a local Goodwill. The Mary Sue is owned by Gamers Group, which owns 17 other media publications like Destructoid and The Escapist. Rotten Tomatoes is owned by Fandango, and Fandango is owned in part 75% by NBC Universal and 25% to Warner Brothers Discovery. IGN is owned by Ziff Davis, and Ziff Davis also owns Humble, PC Mag, Eurogamer, Dicebreaker, CNET, and BlackFriday.com of all things. Does this make a little bit of sense? I hope it does. Corporation Alpha cranks out XYZ multimedia product, and you criticize XYZ multimedia product. Well, journalists who work for Corporation Alpha's subsidiaries run defense publications for XYZ multimedia product with the intent on dismissing, villainizing, or silencing your criticisms entirely, to be sure that poor word of mouth or challenging ideas do not affect general public sales. Don't you think it's strange how the news media hardly criticizes companies? Almost especially in the video game sphere. IGN will be the first to slap a 7 on anything that universally everyone knows is a pile of shit. But they have to do that. Even if they believe that some of the games are awful, they have to lie to themselves and to you that things are great. Things are hunky-dory even when they're not. Because that's their job. And we see this in much more than just gaming. Journalists are just salespeople who don't tell you they work in sales. They go on this list because they're the ones pushing propagandistic narratives. They're the ones trying to suppress free ideas and discussions, usually under the guise of moral virtuism. But inside of that is a manipulative, slimy position intended to influence the way you think and feel, as is any company's goal when trying to sell something. Control thoughts and emotions, and you'll control people's wallets. The third group of people that need to be kicked out of a moving vehicle in Fortnite are the marketing departments and the marketing professionals. Most of the time I put journalists and marketers together, but for this I'm keeping them separate to better expand on each role a little bit further. Whereas the story writers hate the general public, the journalists have to lie to the public, marketing professionals pretend you don't exist at all. See, it's the marketer's job to help the company understand who the target market is. Who are the buyers in the marketplace? Who are you? Who am I? What do we look like? Where do we live? How much disposable income do you have to spend on video games? What are our morals and values? And what avenues can best be used to reach everyone in this marketplace that we've defined? In the old ways, you would define a target market very rigidly. It was very specific. Only after you had a clear target of people to sell to would you then expand into a market segmentation of additional buyers that might fall outside of the typical target. But now, marketers, like writers, live in this bubble where they no longer know or no longer care who the average general audience members are. And they've decided that the typical Western consumers, the typical target markets of the past that were rigidly defined, either no longer exist or wish they would stop existing. So they peddle these beliefs that there is this mystical modern audience of buyers with disposable income that looks nothing like who was buying products even a decade ago. Video games, movies, and all mainstream media now is built around concepts that are not only disinteresting to most of the worldwide marketplace, look at the box office for 2024, but in many cases, they're plainly offensive. So they sell these ideals of a mystical audience up and down the chain of all the businesses. If we target this mystical audience, we'll make a lot of money. Except that doesn't happen at all. And year after year, we watch as companies sink hundreds of millions of dollars into creating products for audiences that do not exist. And even worse, they contort all of the franchises and properties that used to sell exceptionally well to fit into their new rigid biases, which does two things. Firstly, it wastes all the investment dollars into the new product, but it also cripples the franchise to a point where the original audience becomes apathetic to any and all future releases. This happens in every corner of entertainment. The marketing bros do not care who you are and pretend like you don't exist. The fourth group of people to be voted off the tribe are influencers. The tribe has spoken. Now, if you see the title of this video, you'll see I've named Geoff Keighley as number 4, and I want to kind of backtrack on that a little bit. That was more of a joke, but the industry that Geoff Keighley participates in is absolutely part of the problem. Influencer marketing, as in content creators, influencers, and bros that charge hundreds of thousands of dollars to premiere trailers at their festivals, are part of the problem. Now, you might think it's strange I would lump a TikTok influencer in with the Summer Games Fest as far as influencers is concerned, but they're actually very similar. Both groups are bought and paid for. In a lot of ways, this is less about the Game Awards. We watch the Game Awards while aware that much of this pomp and circumstance is bought and paid for by the people with the largest checkbooks. We watch the shows knowing that we're being sold to. That's the point. It's all commercials. Kind of like the Super Bowl. Influencers and content creators that shill for corporations are a bigger problem because they hide the fact that they're playing this game in order to gain influence, not just with you, but with the corporations. They're paid to be the mouthpiece for corporations, but pretend like they're just like you and me, common folk. There's a reason you're supposed to disclose when you've received games and review copies of products from companies. It's to make sure people understand the beliefs and talking points that influencers report are very much swayed by their financiers. And alright, you'll say to me, not all influencers that do paid promotions are crooked. Yeah, I agree with you. There are many that try to do their best and they do the right thing, but there's a loop here. Influencers create content to gain access with corporations and get paid. Well, what if the products they're given are not good? And what if they're honest about it? And they tell you that the products they've been given to review are bad. Would the corporations they've been vying for access to continue to trust them for endorsement? So when pulled in these different directions, is it not easier to just pull your punches and downplay the truly negative things? Trusting influencers is difficult to do when their integrity can be purchased. And when you follow that logic trail, you realize that they're part of the problem, because like journalists in more ways than one, their main job is going to be to influence the way you think and feel so that you buy more stuff. Which also means that they're also salespeople, and another line of defense from you asking the origin issue questions like, Who are these Concord characters supposed to appeal to? It's hard to cover this point because it requires a little bit more nuance than I've afforded creators, and it really comes down to viewers like you being able to read into your favorite characters just a little bit more. You need to analyze them further. Are they hating things for the sake of hate views, or are they loving things for the sake of defending their corporate masters? On both extremes, you'll find financial gain to be the root of their motivations. The fifth group of people who should always find mold in their lunchlies are the corporations, or in this case, the publishers too. Remember, the writers hate you, the journalists and influencers are there to lie to you, and the marketers are there to pretend like you don't exist or phase you out of the marketplace altogether. Well, the next piece of that are the people at the top that have created this kind of environment. The corporations believe in all of those things, just at the next level of nihilism. If you've seen any of my videos before, you know that most of them end with a message that corporations are the bad guys of the world. The surface level things that people argue about on Twitter or in the comments of videos like this are nothing compared to the real manipulative shit that corporations pull. Earlier, I made a fuss that writers are creating products and that things should be made for audiences and not self-indulgent writers. Well, to give a better perspective on that, in the Xbox 360 era, we saw 3 Mass Effects, 3 Batman Arkhams, 3 Dead Spaces, 3 Bioshocks, 8 Rockstar games, 2 Fables, 2 Fallouts, 2 Elder Scrolls, 3 Dragon Ages, 3 Splinter Cells, 7 Halos, and 4 Gears of War. What happened to creativity? What happened to efficiency? What happened to art? You know, many of those franchises I just mentioned were considered pioneering cultural events at the time. What do we have now? What major franchises are even alive right now that you can hold up to one of those past ones? Oh, look, we're getting another Arkham game and Elijah Wood is playing Scarecrow. That's cool. Oh, it's just for VR. Hey, look, we're getting a remaster of Star Wars Episode 1, Power Battles. Cool. Oh, look, Avowed is made by the guys who did Fallout New Vegas, and it's stuck at 30 FPS to run on the Xbox Series S. Grand Theft Auto 5 came out in 2013, so it will be well over a decade before the sequel is released. Skyrim came out in 2011, and Bethesda, having seen the failure of Starfield, is trying to temper expectations for the next Elder Scrolls. It's almost like they know they won't achieve what buyers and customers want. Who is making these decisions? Who is in control of the finances? Who is hiring these creatives that are screwing up gaming? The 7th generation of gaming had banger after banger every week for $59.99 a pop, and it was fun for the smelly GameStop employee to recognize you coming in all the time. There was something to be excited for, and I get it. I'm yelling at clouds. But I don't really care. Things are changed now for the worse, and that all goes back to the extremely out-of-touch corporate managers and IP holders who crank out uninspired slop, slap a fresh freeze-by date on it, and sell it back to you, hoping that you don't wake up to the fact that we've been here before and things are getting worse more than they're getting better. Friends, the resolution I have for all of my videos remains the same. If you're fed up with this, if you're fed up with the way you're being treated by the video game industry, stop buying. Choose to stop buying products from companies that laugh at you every time you open your wallet. Sit back and watch them burn. They can't last forever. Stop complaining on Twitter. Stop making hate content. Just close your wallet silently, thoughtfully. Just you. Don't call for major boycotts. In a lot of ways, companies enjoy that stuff because they win in the end. No, cancel your subscriptions, find alternatives, and support companies that actually have your morals and beliefs in mind. This video is not intended to black pill you or make it seem hopeless. It's to inspire you to take action yourself. There shouldn't need to be viral movements for you to strike back against corporate oligarchs that think they control you. Choose to talk with your wallet. My friends, I want to thank you for joining me for this pondering video. If you would please like the video if you liked the video, subscribe here if you are new and want to see more from me, and until next time, create, innovate, inspire. May the contrived thread of destiny from the Acolyte be with you, and until next time, cancel Disney+. Okay, this was long. I need a drink. Goodbye. See you next time. That's enough. Stop. Cut the tape. Cut the tape. I said cut the tape. Shit.